Kir-young walks along the street, smiling happily. All she can think about is Kir-young and all the fun times they had together. She wonders what they should do today. Maybe she should ask him to go to the net cafe after school. Suddenly, she notices two girls discussing a cute guy from their class. One girl starts by saying the class president is cool, but there's another guy she's interested in, Kir-young. Hearing his name surprises Kir-young. The girl next to her comments that she's been thinking the same thing. They think Kir-young has gotten a bit cuter over the summer break. They believe he's really polite, and his face is adorable. This is the most horrific news Kir-young has ever heard. Competition. Later in class, Seon stares at Kir-young, intrigued by his handsome appearance. She comments that he's changed a little bit. His shoulders have gotten broader and he's a little taller. Kir-young suggests that maybe he has finally hit puberty. Seon inquires what Kir-young thinks about it, and Kir-young sweats nervously, stuttering. Seon asks if she's embarrassed, then gets close and whispers in her ear, asking if she's scared that another girl will claim her man. But Kir-young tells her it's not like that. However, since that's the case, Seon questions if Kir-young would like to go out with her. Kir-young comments that she would get in trouble if she did that out of nowhere. So Seon backs down, but not before informing Kir-young that he's got a reputation with girls these days. They say he's gotten a lot cuter, and if he keeps it up, he'll start hearing people say he's handsome. Jaewon is eavesdropping and thinks they're being too loud, but even she has to admit that Kir-young has gotten even more handsome. Seon comments that she wishes her chest was a little bigger as well, feeling a bit envious. Suddenly, Minsik appears behind Seon and informs her that she's being too loud. Didn't she hear the teacher tell her to be quiet in the classroom? To make matters worse, she's disturbing his sweet nap. Kir-young believes Seon will make Minsik mad again, and he'll start chasing her. However, Seon's face turns red, and she nervously tells Minsik not to stand behind her like that. She runs away, declaring that she feels dirty, and heads to the bathroom. Not too long after, Kir-young follows behind her. Minsik inquires if he did something wrong. Kir-young assures him that a woman's heart is hard to understand. Meanwhile, in the girls' bathroom, Seon reflects, wondering if she's been hypnotized, as everything seems to have been caused by Minsik. She decides to stay away from him for a while. At that moment, Kir-young appears, looking at her nervously. Seon asks if Kir-young also needs to use the bathroom, but Kir-young explains that she needs to ask her something. Seon questions if Kir-young is worried that Kir-young, with his new reputation, may be stolen by another girl. With a sudden expression, Kir-young asks how Seon knew. Seon responds that it was obvious. Seon explains that over the summer break, Kir-young's reputation has gotten much better among the girls. Even she's realized that he's gotten taller and cuter. From Kir-young's perspective, it must be bothering her. Kir-young hesitates for a few moments but admits that Seon is right. She doesn't want to care about it, but she can't stop thinking about it. Seon explains that the more she lets it happen, the worse it will feel. She reminds Kir-young that last time, she told her to be aggressive, or Kir-young will be taken away by another woman. This revelation disturbs Kir-young to the core. Meanwhile, back in class, two girls approach Kir-young, curious about what he's doing. Kir-young nonchalantly tells them, and they ask if he's been working out during the break. He explains that he went to the gym with Minsik. However, Jaewon, who's had a bad feeling for a while, notices these girls going crazy over Kir-young. At that moment, Kir-young enters, staring at them, not liking what she's seeing. The girls reveal that they're on a diet and inquire if Kir-young knows any good exercise routines. He tells them to look it up on the internet. They ask if he wants them to look him up online. Suddenly, Kir-young's face turns red, and she pouts. Later in PE class, the coach suggests that they play dodgeball. The students, eager for free time, agree. The thoughts of dodgeball make Jaewon remember when she and Kir-young held hands. She ponders if they will ever play couples dodgeball again. However, the coach explains that today's game will be divided between men's and women's teams, which makes her sad. Kir-young is a bit excited but nervous at the same time. However, her mood is ruined by girls inquiring if Kir-young is good at dodgeball. They're eager to see how he'll perform, believing he'll do very well. However, Kir-young only has one girl in mind and questions why the others are eager to see him play. Their praise makes Kir-young very sad, as she lowers her head, thinking her man is going to be taken away. Later, a blonde guy finally catches the ball, intimidating his opponents. He plans to reduce the number of players on the opposite team and believes that Kir-young is the weakest one. Apologizing to Kir-young, he declares that he'll eliminate him first and get closer to victory. As he throws the ball, he yells for Kir-young to die because he's weak. All the other boys run away, but Minsik, having already seen the blonde guy's strategy, explains to Sean that he's aiming at Kir-young, who seems to be the weakest. It's not a bad choice, he admits. Sean questions what Minsik is talking about and wonders why he's not playing. Minsik explains that he was the odd one out. However, there's one thing the blonde guy is missing: Kir-young has received special training. The way Kir-young catches the ball with two hands shocks the blonde kid, the girls, and Jaewon, who is originally seen as proud. Kir-young declares that he also knows how to throw and challenges the blonde guy to catch his shot. Surprisingly, Kir-young's throw hits the blonde guy on the shoulder, knocking him out of the game. This is Kir-young's first victory in dodgeball, and all the girls are super impressed. Sean approaches Kir-young, inquiring if this bothers her, as she looks like she's about to cry. She reminds Kir-young that Kir-young is popular now, and Kir-young sees that it's true. If she doesn't want him to be taken away by another woman, she'll have to work harder. However, Kir-young is too nervous to approach Kir-young, who has gotten more handsome and manly than before. Sean comments that Kir-young is merely jealous. Kir-young admits that she's a fool for thinking that way and wonders what she should do. Sean suggests she accept her feelings and use one of the methods she recommended. Later, after the game, Kir-young is approached by some girls who praise his dodgeball skills. However, he notices Kir-young standing alone in the corner, looking sad. He excuses himself from the girls and walks over to Kir-young. He tells her good luck and that he'll be cheering her on. Suddenly, Kir-young grabs him by the shirt and declares that he better be watching, blushing slightly. This makes Kir-young nervous, and his heart races as he watches her run off. As Kir-young plays dodgeball, she wins with 8 victories and 0 loses. Later, on the rooftop, a boy confesses to a girl, telling her he likes her and asking her to go out with him. However, with seductive confidence, the girl tells him not to stutter when confessing. It doesn't look good. She explains that she doesn't even know who he is, and it wouldn't be fair to say yes. As the boy nervously sweats, he inquires what her response is, but she tells him it's a no. Sungai, standing nearby, inquires if she knows the boy. However, Jaewon doesn't know who he is either and wonders why guys confess to her when she doesn't even know them. Sungai remarks that it's like her own feelings, wondering about a guy she doesn't really know yet. Sung holds her close and comments that Jaewon is really cute and would probably not like any of the boys unless they were handsome, just like the handsome guy she mentioned. However, Jaewon doesn't remember, so Sung reminds her about the guy she mentioned before summer vacation, the guy she bumped into on the street. Jaewon declares that she doesn't even remember him. Later, she runs down the street because she's late for something, wearing glasses and looking very different from usual. She wishes that stranger hadn't confessed to her out of nowhere. The number of confessions she has received is too high to count, but the problem is, she doesn't like any of them at all. If an unattractive guy confesses to someone he doesn't know, it feels much worse than flattering. And that's how every confession she's received has felt up to this point. She believes that if someone is going to confess, they need to get close to the person first and confess later, like the handsome boy she's thinking about. They've even gone out together, although she's not sure when it happened, but she believes they've gotten closer. If he confesses, she would be willing to accept. Suddenly, she questions what's wrong with herself. At that moment, Kir-young appears and asks what's happening. She is taken aback, sweat running down her face, as she nervously asks who he is. He explains that he's Kir-young, and he compliments her glasses. She tells him not to appear out of nowhere and asks if he's following her. He explains that he's just back from running an errand and went to buy drinks for his father. She walks away, telling him to go where he needs to go because she's busy. Suddenly, her foot slips, and she begins to fall backward, everything feeling like it's in slow motion. Kir-young quickly catches her in his arms and tells her to be more careful. He asks if she's okay, saying she was in such a hurry that she almost fell. She quickly pulls away from him and tells him to let her go. She walks off, saying that she's leaving now. But before she leaves, he tells her she should thank him for saving her. Blushing, she tells him, "Thanks." Later that night, Jaewon reveals everything that happened earlier. Sung teases her, saying she got excited. But to my surprise, this beauty has delinquent friends and looks fine as hell. It's a crime against the world. Sung suggests maybe she thought Kir-young was cute. Jaewon explains that he just grabbed her out of nowhere, and maybe she was just surprised. But Sung asks if it really wasn't to her liking, which reminds Jaewon of the handsome guy she saw on the street. Sung suggests that maybe that's the reason her heart was beating so fast. Jaewon hangs up the phone, and moments later, a guy asks if she was talking to Jaewon. He inquires if she still hangs out with her. He explains that he talked to Jaewon out of curiosity last time, but she was very rude. He questions if it would be better for Sung to stop talking to Jaewon too, as there are bad rumors when they go out together. Sung tells him to shut up because nothing but nonsense comes out of his mouth. Meanwhile, Jaewon reflects on what Sung said. She must be right. It was just excitement because Kir-young and the handsome guy look alike. However, this is a problem with no answer. She can't confirm it until she encounters that handsome guy again. Suddenly, the handsome guy appears, seducing everyone around him. He questions why a cute girl like her is walking alone on a dangerous street at night. She blushes and realizes that this is him. Boys from the dance department, the basketball department, and even just handsome guys in general all confess their love to her, which Sung thought was awesome. When she was 17, none of these boys were her type, and Sung thought she was being annoying. She was surprised that Jaewon didn't like any of them and questioned what her type was. They reflect on the fact that if Jaewon weren't pretty, the boys wouldn't even talk to her. The idea sends chills down her spine. They advise her not to treat someone who's been kind to her that way. She suggests that a handsome guy is okay. The handsome guy questions if she knows better, and she wonders if she'll ever run into him again. He asks why she isn't answering, then asks, "Do you want to die?" She asks how he knows her name and if he knows her. He replies, "Of course." She comments that it's normal, as she's famous for being cute. He tells her not to walk home alone in the dark, asking what she would do if someone tried to rob her. She explains that she doesn't know. He asks if she's listening, but she's only reflecting on how handsome he is. Suddenly, her heart starts beating loudly again. This time for real. She knows it wasn't Kir-young who made her heart race. Sung was right. It happened because Kir-young looks like the handsome guy. Maybe she should ask for his number. However, the handsome guy walks away, saying he has to go. If she's not going to answer, she should take care on her way home. She asks where he's going, but he tells her it's none of her business. She can't miss this chance. How will she find him again? So, she calls out, "Appa," and grabs his wrist. She suggests they get coffee together. She can't believe he ordered an espresso, as espressos are very strong, which is why she's surprised. He questions if this is coffee, saying it tastes horrible, but he assumes it just came out badly. She explains that's how espresso is. She can't believe it's real. She's really on a date with this handsome guy. Her heart is beating so loudly. What should she do? Now that she thinks about it, it's been a while since she's been alone with a guy like this. The last time was with the class president in middle school, but she spent a lot of time with Kir-young too. He even saw her in a swimsuit, but why is she thinking about Kir-young when she's with such a handsome man? The handsome guy comments that she seems to be enjoying something. She explains she was just thinking about something else, and he asks what it is. She mentions there's this weird guy in her class, and she was thinking about him for a moment. He asks who this guy is, and then comments that she's probably thinking of him because she likes him. Jaewon denies it, saying the guy is just a bit annoying. However, the handsome guy tells her to trust him, explaining that based on his experience, when you think of someone out of nowhere like that, there's a 99% chance that person has your heart. She insists it's impossible, but how can she be sure? She declares that the person making her heart race is the guy sitting right in front of her. Just then, Kir-young appears, looking every bit as handsome. Jaewon starts blushing and wonders what's going on. The handsome guy stands up, saying he's late and has to go. He offers to take her home, but she quickly says she'll be fine. He walks away, telling her goodbye. She then realized until then that she hadn't asked for his number. In a panic, she runs outside, chasing after him. She was too preoccupied thinking about something else and lost sight of him. How could she lose her ideal guy? She finally spots him and knows she has to get his number. Along the way, though, she wonders, has she already found her ideal guy? It was nice having coffee with the handsome man, but why has she been thinking about Kir-young so much? Is it because he saved her from that shady idiot, or because they became friends at Sung's house? She calls out to the handsome guy, who turns around to look at her. She tells him to wait for a moment, but what is she going to say? Then she remembers the time she cried because of those mean boys. Suddenly, she begins to fall, but before she hits the ground, Kir-young catches her again and asks if she's okay. He tells her to be careful, saying that running so fast could get her hurt. She looks away and admits that he's right. Later, Sung asks if she found the handsome guy she was looking for yesterday. Jaewon tells her she did. Sung asks if she got his number, and Jaewon says no. Sung doesn't understand, but Jaewon asks if she remembers what she said yesterday, what she told her over the phone, that when she was about to fall, Kir-young caught her, and her heart was racing without her knowing why. At the time, Sung said it was because Kir-young looked like the handsome guy, but it wasn't like that. It was exactly the opposite. Sung stares at her in disbelief for a few moments before laughing hysterically. So it's true, Sung says. You got excited because it was Kir-young. Sung admits she saw it coming. It was pretty obvious. Sung reminds her of the first time they met. Jaewon was sitting alone, looking depressed, and Sung approached her with a solemn expression. Then she knows when she's lying because it shows on her face. Her face turns red, and she tells Sung not to make her laugh. Suddenly, Sung brings attention to her future boyfriend, who is running. She questions why he keeps popping up out of nowhere and believes he's so annoying. Sung, however, asks what she thinks. Does she want to go talk to him? Immediately, she gets up and asks, "How do I look? Do I look weird?" I have to say, she looks like $1 million. Meanwhile, Kir-young, who has just started working out, finds it fun. Jaewon, at that moment, approaches him, not meeting his gaze, but she tries to talk to him. Kir-young inquires, "What's up?" She asks if he's busy, but he says he's free. She then asks if he would like to grab coffee with her. Meanwhile, Sung wonders what she will do next. The next day, Kir-young happily asks Kir-young if he knows what would happen when a king lights up a cigarette. Kir-young jokingly exclaims, "He would be smoking." This makes Kir-young sad, and she mutters that she hates him. However, this confuses Kir-young, and he questions, "What's with that all of a sudden?" She doesn't know, but she exclaims he's very mean with an upset expression. At that moment, someone calls out to them. Right in front of them is a blonde girl inside a trash can. She requests help to get out of the trash can, and Kir-young questions why she's in there. Kir-young takes one side of the trash can, pulling it back, while Kir-young grabs her hand to pull her out. It's quite an awkward situation for her. Finally, she is freed, and she thanks Kir-young for her assistance. Kir-young then asks how she ended up in the trash can, and she exclaims, "Taekwondo!" She explains that she was coming back from the Taekwondo Academy, but when she kicked, her legs didn't even get as high as her thighs. She got mad and started practicing while walking, which led to her tripping and falling into the trash can. It's frightening how clumsy she is. Kir-young declares that the reason for this is because she lacks flexibility, but since they're there, they should do some yoga. However, the girl comments that she doesn't have an appropriate apartment, but Kir-young suggests they do it at Kir-young's place, which takes him by surprise. When Kir-young arrives home and lets them inside, his sister quickly arrives to greet him, asking for food, but she freezes upon seeing the two beautiful girls with him. Kir-young explains that she brought a friend along. Kir-young's sister begins stuttering, clearly nervous, but she greets them nonetheless. Kir-young apologizes on behalf of his sister, believing she is just embarrassed since she's a bit shy around strangers. Kir-young asks his sister to lend them some clothes, as they will be exercising in the living room. She requests a moment, and not long after, everyone is dressed in outfits that perfectly show off their model-like figures. Kir-young's friend comments that her stomach and clavicles are exposed, which is quite embarrassing. Kir-young assures her that it suits her well, and Song asks if she looks cute and seductive. Kir-young tells her, "Of course, and if you train hard, you'll get an even better body." Unfortunately, Kir-young has a huge challenge ahead of him. He desperately needs to look anywhere but at them. At that moment, Kir-young declares that she's going to the bathroom, so they can warm up in the meantime. They stare at each other in silence for a few moments before Kir-young's friend questions if he's dating Kir-young. What's more curious is why she makes a seductive pose while asking that. Kir-young responds that Kir-young said it was hot. He strikes a pose as well, commenting that they aren't dating yet. Kir-young's friend laughs, saying it's funny because it's been some time since she last saw her. But Kir-young's personality has done a full 180. However, it isn't common for people to change like that, so there must have been a trigger. Hearing this, for a brief moment, Kir-young wonders if the reason Kir-young changed was because of him, but that can't be true since they met in the 2nd grade of high school, and her smile was already that bright back then. At that moment, Kir-young arrives and tells them to start exercising. They begin with some basic stretches. They all sit down and open their legs. However, upon looking at Song, Kir-young questions if that's all she can do. Song asks how she can be more flexible, but Kir-young tells her not to worry and to keep going. She then leans forward right away. However, Kir-young can see the jackpot and he's liking what he sees, but he knows he needs to concentrate, so he shakes it off. Unfortunately or fortunately, Kir-young's friend cannot lean forward properly, so Kir-young asks Kir-young to help her. He places his hands on her shoulders and comments that he's going to push her. Suddenly, she screams that it hurts and makes strange noises when he touches her shoulders. Kir-young comments that she seems happy and tells Kir-young to push her more. Doing this while Kir-young instructs him is difficult for him to handle. It's like he's on a mission impossible. Later, Kir-young takes off her jacket, further seducing Kir-young. Suddenly, Kir-young exclaims, "My heart," but now he can see her tattoo. Sung is also watching, so he wonders if Kir-young doesn't care or if Song already knows. Sung comments that she's never seen Kir-young's shoulder tattoo before and thinks it suits her. Kir-young thanks her. Seems they don't mind, so it's okay. However, it was supposed to be a secret. Now, Kir-young's friend questions if this is how yoga is done. Suddenly, Kir-young exclaims that she shouldn't show him her pay, but Kir-young's friend comments that she'd be more embarrassed to show him her cheeks, and Kir-young can't argue with that logic. However, Kir-young doesn't seem embarrassed at all. She tells them to straighten their backs like this. Kir-young tries to stay composed, reminding himself to breathe and calm down. Suddenly, Kir-young's friend declares that she needs to go to the bathroom. Before leaving, she informs Kir-young that Kir-young has been checking out her chest and cheeks for a while, as well as hers, so he must be a giant perv. As she walks away, she tells Kir-young she's just joking, but it didn't seem like a joke. At that moment, Kir-young playfully comments that she can't believe he was looking at her chest. She calls him a perv, but he tries to explain that Song was just joking. There's no need for excuses, though, because she confesses that she asked his sister for those clothes on purpose, knowing Kir-young would watch. It's just Kir-young's way of teasing him when he acts shy. He already knows her patterns. He laughs nervously, telling her that he wasn't looking. Besides, she dressed up deliberately like that so he would watch. She must be joking. However, she questions whether it looks like a joke. This makes his heart race, and he stares at her blankly. She then tells him that she knew he was clueless. After all, it's him, Kir-young. She then questions what kind of girl goes to a boy's house dressed like this. Kir-young tries to convince himself that this must be a prank to embarrass him. Surely, Kir-young will go back to being her usual smiling self soon. But then, she whispers in his ear that she'll stop now, but only because Song is here. Suddenly, Kir-young's friend returns and declares that happy hour is over. She has to go home now as it's already late. They walk away, and Kir-young tells her that they should change. But today has been a hectic day full of surprises. On their way home, Kir-young's friend comments that it's been fun, and she couldn't believe Kir-young had a shoulder tattoo. It was very surprising. But Kir-young reveals that the tattoo was supposed to be a secret. She just didn't want to hide anything from her anymore. Kir-young's friend comments that she's changed a lot compared to back in middle school. Kir-young smiles more, and her voice has become kinder. She wants to know what caused this. As Kir-young is about to reveal it, she interrupts and declares that she is glad Kir-young is happier. As a result, Kir-young holds her hand and suggests that they go to karaoke. Kir-young's friend would love that, but she questions if Kir-young has feelings for Kir-young. Kir-young declares that she'll tell her slowly on the way there. Later, it's time for Kir-young to go exercise, but his sister calls out to him. She runs toward him and excitedly announces, "Pit-a-pat fighters." It's a new action game where there's a fight with pretty girls, and she wants them to go play together. However, he explains that he has to go exercise now, and she encourages him to do it another day. However, he inquires who will be responsible for the muscles he loses. She explains, "Don't worry about losing muscle, just play with me." However, he runs through the door and declares that it's time to run and says he'll see her later. She is furious, thinking that he's an idiot for rejecting her kind request. He can keep his muscles gained from exercise. She doesn't need him anyway. She'll just find someone else who will listen to her. Someone who will play pit-a-pat fighters with her. She walks down the hallway alone, thinking she'll find someone to play the game with. Unfortunately, the truth is, she doesn't have any friends. When she was in her first year, she tried to talk to others and make friends, but she failed multiple times. After a while of thinking about how to do it, she noticed many of them were already very close with each other. But she can't stay like this forever. She has to be brave. This is all for the game she wants to play. Meanwhile, a blonde-haired boy and a red-haired boy, who are both muscular, talk about playing a game that they were playing after class. The redhead declares no, as he is bored of it, and the blonde boy questions what game he wants to play. The redhead guy announces pit-a-pat fighters. This catches the attention of Solji. She wonders, what did he just say? Did I happen to hear that name? Who is this red-haired guy? She calls out to him, and the guy questions, "What's up?" However, she is frozen in place, unable to believe her boldness. What does she do now? What will she say? Her head goes completely blank. He questions if she is Solji from his class, and with an upset expression, he asks why she called him Redhead. His name is Park Dong-cheol. However, because of his scary expression, she is terrified. She runs away with teary eyes and announces, "I'm sorry." The redhead guy questions if he said something weird, and his friend comments that his face is the problem. Solji believes he's too fierce. His face looks very mean. She finally found someone to play with, so she cannot give up now. She has to find another chance. She has to make sure to talk and make him her friend. However, she can never find the right opportunity. He's either talking or walking with others, as he seems to have many friends. It irritates her that there are so many people around him. How will she talk to him if it stays like this? She won't be able to play the game she wants with him. At that moment, someone questions why she's standing there all alone. It's Minsik, who comments that it's been a while. She hugs him and asks how he has been. He declares that he's healthy as always, but he questions what she's doing. She explains everything to him, and he inquires why she doesn't just talk to him. However, it's not easy for her. Unfortunately, this upsets Minsik, and he tells her not to worry over such stupid things and to act before she thinks. He tells her to repeat after him that she's going to try it, and she does, saying it so loudly that it catches Park Dong-cheol's attention. He wonders what Solji is doing. She's been following him for a while. What is she planning? After a while, she contemplates that Minsik is right. She should act first and think later. First, she will talk to him. Suddenly, she sees him and requests a moment of his time. He's relieved that she's finally talking to him. Now he can figure out what she's planning. Is she looking for a fight? A petition? What does she want from him? She blushes and exclaims, "Pit-a-pat!" He is a bit nervous and wonders why she's saying that out of nowhere. He believes she is confessing her love for him. She repeats it again, and suddenly, Everything makes sense. Her round eyes seem to light up. Her hair and slim hand are absolutely breathtaking. Suddenly, he questions if she likes Dongpal as a child's name. His friend wonders what the hell he's talking about, saying that name is terrible. Seeing that she's having a hard time speaking, Dongcheol asks what's the matter. Nervously, she asks if he has time after school. He believes she's going to ask him out on a date, so he calmly inquires, "What's your favorite food?" She tells him pizza, and he declares that they're going to a pizzeria. Then he questions if she likes sports. She tells him no, and he comments that they'll be doing more indoor activities. He walks away, telling her he'll get ready by himself and will see her after school. When he finally leaves, she finishes her statement. He waits alone, in disbelief that she actually asked him out. He thought she was just a quiet kid, but looking at her closely, she's a total beauty. Just his type, he eagerly awaits their date. He imagines them eating pizza, with crumbs appearing on her face, and calmly wiping them off. She blushes, her face red like a tomato, as she nervously asks if they should get married. He decides that they'll have their honeymoon on a tropical island. Suddenly, she arrives, ready for something entirely different. She apologizes for being late, and he questions where she wants to go. He suggests going to the pizzeria first, or does she want to see the night view afterward? Maybe karaoke, a coffee shop, a movie, or is there somewhere else she wants to go? She tells him the internet cafe. He comments that a date at an internet cafe doesn't sound bad. But she is surprised when he said date, and questions what game she wants to play. She tells him pit-a-pat fighters. Suddenly, it hits him. She must have been talking about the game all along. She explains that she overheard him talking about it while walking down the corridor. He had said he played that game. She likes the game as well and doesn't have anyone to play with. He finally realizes everything was just a misunderstanding. Dongpal will never be born, and his pure love might have been misplaced. However, there may still be hope. Nervously, Solji asks if he wants to come play with her at the net cafe. He declares that he can do it all day, so they should go right now. He comments that it's a shame, but she thinks they should try again. He questions if she thinks she'll be able to defeat him if they try again, and when he comments that she's bad at the game, she gets a bit angry. They have a fun time together. In the end, Solji never confessed to him. It was all an illusion. But that's okay because he had a lot of fun today. He even thinks it's better to just stay friends and play video games together. She tells him thanks for today and for playing with her. He calmly declares that she's welcome, and he also had fun. She then tells him that they should do it again someday, with a beautiful smile plastered on her face. This makes his heart skip a beat. Apparently, the thought that she tried to confess was a mistake, but his heartbeat is speaking the truth. His name is Park Longcheol, and his goal is now set. Solji is going to fall in love with him someday. Later, Solji informs Kir-young that she went to the net cafe with her friend. She proudly announces that she has a friend she can play games with now. She informs him that it's a boy called Dongcheol and that he's kind of weird with red hair. He's scary, but he seems like a great guy. Kir-young remembers that she used to be very nervous, but she's done a good job, so he pats her on the head. He questions if she wants to eat pizza today. She's a bit surprised and questions what happened to her weird brother today. He tells her, in exchange, he'll choose the type. Meanwhile, the redhead questions what things guys do that girls like. At Minsik's home, he has just finished a very important project. A doll of Sian. It looks like her but is very, very small. His father appears and questions if he's a girl now. He cannot believe that he's sewing all of a sudden. Minsik explains that he was given a stuffed little monster, so in exchange, he plans to give her a little doll. He then tells his father he'll be leaving for school now. His father tells him to wait and asks, "What about my hug?" They hug each other, and it's very family-friendly. Upon exiting his house, Minsik looks at the little doll, thinking, "This time I have something planned." Once upon a time, there was a very cute and pretty elf. One day, the elf was taking a stroll through the forest, when suddenly she stumbled upon a big ogre. The ogre commented that it seemed like he had found an elf with pigtails. The elf was scared of the ogre. She knew that if she stayed there, she would become his prey. It was obvious that both her body and her mind would be ruined completely, and her reasoning would be corrupted. Out of nowhere, the ogre pulled out his smartphone and showed something to the elf. It was a hypnosis app. The elf couldn't think straight and was ultimately controlled by the ogre, both body and mind. She became the monster's maid. The end? Cian comments that it's a good story and asks if Driver Choi thinks so as well. It was an unexpected development. However, Driver Choi seems uninterested and comments that it certainly is. She explains that it makes no sense. Something that should only happen in anime or manga is happening in real life. He questions if the story is about her and some random man. She asks, "What is he talking about?" Driver Choi tells her sometimes it's good to be honest. In this world, things such as a hypnosis app aren't real. He informs her that she has a special event today. Mr. Kim Bae's birthday party is at 7 p.m. He is the son of Group Z's president. However, she doesn't want to go, but the daughter of the Bang family is also going to be there, and it would be a serious problem if she didn't attend that kind of event. But she doesn't care about getting into trouble. A few words from Driver Choi, and she folds immediately. He informs her that the invitation allows a guest to bring a companion. He asks if there's anyone she'd like to bring with her. She asks her friends, but one is busy with a family dinner, and another is busy with a sick dog that she has to take care of. Jaewon has to go to the academy, and it's one of those days for Kir-young, who needs to go home and relax. It seems no one has time to go with her. Kir-young offers to take her since he's free, but she doesn't want to go with him. All the girls said they can't go, so the only option left is Minsik. He tells her that he heard what she was talking about. She tells him it's at 7 p.m., and he comments that it's a complicated time. She tells him to shut up and declares that he has no right to deny it, as he is the ogre. Can an insignificant ogre like him reject the orders of an elf? She needs that ogre to get ready. He explains that he's already used to her provocations, so it doesn't matter. With an irritated expression, he puts her in a princess carry hold, and she questions if he didn't say he got used to it. She declares that it's over and now she'll be the ogre's wife and give birth to a half-ogre baby. He declares that she is truly insane. Meanwhile, Kir-young and Kir-young are still together, enjoying every moment. They seem to be on good terms, as always. At the establishment, Cian informs Minsik that there are a lot of high-profile people there, so he better stay calm and take his hands out of his pockets. Also, he must protect her if there's any incident, which is why she brought him there. However, it's an unscheduled situation. Driver Choi declares that he'll wait in the car until she's ready. Suddenly, someone questions, "Who do we have here?" A blonde-haired girl and her +1 inquire if she is Cian. "It's been a long time since we last saw her. This girl is Mayak Uni." They lower their heads and greet her. "It's nice to meet her there." Cian introduces her to Minsik, saying she's the sheriff's daughter, 21 years old. Bang Mayak, and with her is her boyfriend, who is 26 years old, John-young. The blonde-haired girl questions, "What is that next to her?" The boyfriend declares that he was going to ask the same thing, as he was curious. Cian introduces him as Minsik and says he's her precious school friend, also noting that he's not a that. They seem uninterested as they look at them. Cian begins walking away and tells Minsik to come along. Suddenly, Mayak declares that she's a shameless witch. Luckily, Cian didn't hear this, or it would have been a world of hurt for her. Even more luckily, Minsik didn't hear this either. Moments later, she explains to Minsik that she got excited and said whatever first came to her mind, so he shouldn't worry about it and should go have some fun. However, he doesn't really mind, as in the past such events were not that great for him. This is just unusual for him. In the main hall, Kir-young Bae returns, thanking everyone for coming to his fate anniversary party. They slightly bows his head and comments that it's been a while. Young Bae questions, "Who is this muscular man?" Cian introduces Minsik to the man as the star of the party. He shakes Minsik's hand, and they have a manly talk for a few moments before Minsik walks away. The guy comments that Cian is getting more beautiful, and she retorts that his mustache is becoming brighter every time.